Cameraman Grades, CameramanGrades.com. How to film football, training, and professional consultations for camera operators, video coordinators, and sports video professionals at all levels. Find us at CameramanGrades.com or contact us directly at CameramanGrades@gmail.com to improve your team's coaching video. Today, one of the questions I get the most from teams, or one of the comments that teams will make to me, is that there is no standard for filming kickoffs. That the coach's preference is the most important thing for kickoffs. And so one thing that I tell people is that there is actually a formula for how to figure out whether or not you should have your kicker in the shot. Okay? To start, we're going to look at your kicker, okay, and rate the kicker from a rating of 0 to 10, how good of a tackler that kicker is, okay? So put that in that line there. Then we're going to also rate the kicker on 0 to 10, how confident you are that he will actually make the tackle once he gets into position. And then finally, how much time does the kicker take, and rate that from 0 to 10. If he's practicing tackling 100% of the time, that's a 10. If he doesn't practice tackling at all, that's a 0. Okay? So we're going to take all three of those, and we're going to add them up, and we're going to come to a number. Okay? And we're going to put that number right there. And so then we're going to look at that number and say, if that number is less than or equal to 30, drop the kicker. Okay? So obviously, your number is going to be less than or equal to 30, which means you're going to drop the kicker every time. But here's the thing. Most likely that number is probably closer to like 5, right? The kickers, their job is not primarily to tackle people. Their job is to kick the ball to the exact spot that they're supposed to every single time. And that's their focus, and that's what they're doing, right? But we're going to take a look at some different versions of kickoffs from the NFL to see when people are dropping the kicker versus keeping the kicker in the shot, and how that benefits their team the most for each individual application of kickoffs and special teams. Okay, so to start, let's just take a look at a few teams that drop the kicker immediately and pan over to find where the ball went, and then zoom up on the play. Okay, right there we're seeing 21 guys in this shot, right? The kicker is no longer in this frame, so we're focused on all of these players here without the kicker in the shot. Okay? All right. And then from the end zone angle, you'll see the same thing there. There's the kick off, and then they're actually keeping all 22 guys in the shot from the end zone angle. Which makes sense, right? Because the returner is heading towards the kicker. Okay, so everything's moving that direction anyways. If it is going to break loose to the kicker, he's going to be in the shot. All right, the Denver Broncos panning over, dropping the kicker, and then zooming up on the play. Okay, again, there's 21 guys in that shot. The kicker is no longer found. All right. But from the end zone angle, we're going to see the kicker. He's going to kick the ball. He stands there like a statue for a second, and then he kind of runs back behind the play. He's there as a tackler if need be, but mostly we're looking at the other 21 guys on the field. Okay, here's the Buffalo Bills. They're going to pan over and drop the kicker. They're going to find where the ball lands, and then they're going to zoom in. But you actually see this is all 22 guys in the shot. The kicker got back into the play and is now trailing behind there. And then you'll see from the end zone angle exactly how he got into position to be in that shot. Okay, kick is away, and he comes down the field, and he's getting involved in this play as a safety in case the other 10 players on the field are not able to make the tackle, which those other 10 players focus on nothing but making that tackle. All right, LA Rams, they do zoom out a little bit, but then they come back in. and now they're zooming in, and there's the kicker again. Okay, so this is all 22 guys without zooming out to keep the kicker in the shot. They were able to keep all 22 guys in that shot. And from the end zone version, all 22 guys, kicker's in the shot. He's getting down the field. You can see him getting into position to make a tackle if need be. But guess what? The other 10 guys on his team are making that tackle for him. Thank goodness. Okay? Kickers are great at kicking. We love that. They're great at it. They focus on that. Let's keep them there. And then there's all 22 guys in this shot as well. Again, the kicker being in the shot and ready to make a tackle if need be, but relying on the rest of his team to do what they are trained to do, which is to get down the field, find the ball, stay in their lanes, and make a tackle. Okay, and so that should be the focus for after the kick is away. Okay, so now let's take a look at some examples where the filmer zooms out to keep the kicker in the shot. Okay, widening out, keeping the kicker on that side, and then there we are. Okay. This is about as wide of a shot as you can get, right? From the far side 35 on this close sideline here, you can see the 35-yard line, all the way down to the goal line, to the 2-yard line, technically, okay? So, do the math on that, right? It's a significant amount of space that you're losing, a significant amount of detail that you're losing in this shot. I can see that there's players on the field, and that's about it, right? It's so far out that I really can't see the detail that I'd love to in where did these players come down the field and make that play towards the ball. All right. And you can see the kicker still in this shot from the end zone. You can see him lightly jogging behind the play, and that's fine. That's his job. He did what he was supposed to do by kicking it way out the back of the end zone, and that's great. Okay. Zooming out. And so now you can see from this shot that it goes from the far side 42-yard line down to the goal line. Okay, so 58 yards from one side to the other. Okay, and you can see what that does to the players on the field. They're much smaller, and instead of seeing, focusing on the players like we had before, we're seeing the crowd in the background. Okay, I'm seeing 8-9 rows of crowd on the far side of the field instead of focusing on the 22 guys on the field, right? Even 21 guys, and not keeping this kicker in the shot, because you can see the kicker never actually barely crosses the 50-yard line, right? The tackle's being made at the 27-yard line, 28-yard line, and the kicker is standing at the 50, okay? Which is great. He should be in a position to make a play if he needs to be called on, but we shouldn't be focusing on him to do that when the real goal is for the other 10 players on his team to make that tackle before it ever gets to him. Okay, those players are focusing specifically on making tackles 100% of the time, and the kicker is focused on making tackles probably close to 0% of the time, right? And they're 100% of the time they're focused on kicking the ball. Right, kick is away to there, and now we're zooming up. And again, here's 22 guys in this shot, right? But this kicker got down the field, and he would get into that shot anyways if we were focusing on the other 21 guys on the field. He would get into this play. And some kickers are like that. Some kickers are getting down the field, right? And getting into position to make a play, and that's great. I see you, Tennessee, right? Okay, San Francisco, zooming out. Wow, really far out, right? Here is from the far side 34-yard line to the goal line. Okay, not even tight to the back of the kicker, not even tight to the back of the receiver, the returner, and seeing 20 rows of crowd on the far side and most of the sideline on this near side as well. And again, the kicker lightly jogging behind the play isn't at all where our focus should be, right? It's great that he's in the position, he's jogging to the position that he will be needing to make a play at some point, but let's focus on the other 10 guys on the field. And if we're really empowering them with the tools that they need to get better every single day, they will not be relying on their kicker to make that play for them, right? They're going to make the play before it ever gets to that level. Okay, so here's just a couple of examples side by side between one way of doing it and the other, and see if you can spot the difference. Okay, nice and tight, and then here comes the kicker into the shot. Okay, great, fantastic. And now let's take a look at the other option. Would be to zoom out wide to keep the kicker in the shot, and then we don't actually come in much tighter after that. Eventually they do after the player is down, but up until that point you can see that right here, okay, everybody's so small, there's really no detail to see what actually happens on this play. Okay, so that's 50% of your frame. It's a quarter of your frame that you're actually using, right? So you can stay tighter and keep the kicker in the shot, and there's room to do that here. But the fact that they had to zoom out as wide as they did to start means that they're already out wider than they should be. And if they could just pan over straight across and drop the kicker immediately, it would avoid this 100% from the very beginning. All right, let's take a look at the Green Bay Packers. Zooming out, okay, and so this is a version that's much tighter, right? But there's no reason to zoom out if the kicker is going to be in that position anyway to get into this shot. It's still out wide here, right? But if the kicker is going to be this close to the return team, they're going to be in that shot regardless. And so there's no reason to zoom out to keep them in the shot, like you might see from a lot of the different variations where coaches are requesting that exact thing for the kicker to be in the shot when there's no need for it. They're going to get into the shot either way. If they're actually getting in there to make a play, they're going to get into that shot and they're going to be the one to make the tackle, and you'll see that how they got there from the end zone angle. You do not have to show it from the press box angle. So that's it. Let me know what you think. Email me directly at cameramangrades.com. This is Cameraman Grades.